What is homelessness?
Yeah, when I saw that question, I was like, "Ooh, that's a big one, eh?" But and I did make some notes, so I'll be kind of referring to those. But yeah, I think at its one way to look at it is definitely a lack of housing. So having adequate, suitable, affordable housing, I think is one way to consider what is homelessness, and also housing is a human right. So when you think about that, homelessness is a violation of human rights. But there's different ways to look at it too. One way that I really like is the Canadian Observatory on homelessness definition, which is kind of like a more of an all-encompassing definition, which includes four parts. So you have unsheltered, so people absolutely homeless or living on the street or in a place that's not, intended for human habitation. So it could be like outside somewhere under a bridge, or could be like in the woods someplace. Also, the second dimension is emergency sheltered, so living in an emergency shelter or a shelter for families impacted by violence. The third one is provisionally accommodated, so those people in temporary housing situations. So when I think about that, it's kind of like transitional housing that may have mandates for a year or two, but there's no kind of guaranteed path to permanent housing. And then the last is at risk of homelessness. So people who aren't homeless, but definitely are in a economic or housing situation that that puts them at risk of an eviction perhaps, or losing their housing. So I think that's a bit more of a comprehensive way of defining what homelessness is and captures the different nuances attached to that. And then I think it's also important to like think about different subgroups too, right? So we know that women may experience homelessness in a different way than men, particularly as it relates to staying with friends or family, sometimes called couch surfing. For families as well, I think it's different as well. So, we know that oftentimes families can double up with other families or be in a couch surfing situation as well. Similarly, with youth, we know that youth homelessness is different than adult homelessness. It's often, you're leaving your family home as opposed to leaving an independent home. So I think that's an important distinction as well. And my last piece too, I think I mentioned it before, but these are all kind of westernized approaches outside of Jesse's definition. So when we talk about homelessness in the West, that could be much different than it is in the global South, in other developing areas as well. So I think it's important to really kind of consider what geographic area we're talking about, as well as some populations we're talking about as well. So yeah, that's what I think homelessness is.
Yeah, I think that that's a great answer because it really shows how diverse homelessness is. And sometimes I think there's a bit of a stereotypical sense that people think they understand what homelessness is, but they're really only thinking about the visible homelessness that they see perhaps on a street corner or, in a park or on the news in encampments. So yeah, very, very interesting to think about those different dynamics and dimensions around homelessness.